2025 has been an absolute banger of a year for games. High quality titles have been released every single month, and there's definitely been something for everyone to enjoy. And for the first time ever, I've decided to put out a list representing the top games that I've played this year personally. Remember, only games that I've actually played are counted. So don't cancel me if you don't see your favorite game. There's a high chance I just never got around to it. Without further ado, let's begin. Starting off at number 10 is a game developed by Doki Doki Grooveworks and Square Enix. We have Octopath Traveler 0, a prequel to the Traveler stories. Zero takes place before the events of the first Octopath Traveler. And for someone who's never actually played the series, this was a good place to start. Yeah, I'm sure if I played the other games, I would get more enjoyment out of it. But if you've never tackled the series and I've always wanted to, you can't go wrong with starting at Zero. Combining some modern game mechanics like building a village with iconic throwback turn-based JRPG elements, Zero shines where others sometimes fail. Its beautiful HD 2D graphics, the serious tone, interesting characters, and its lengthy main story are standout and will keep you coming back for 100 plus hours. This is a long game. Octopath Traveler 0 is a must-play for any JRPG enthusiast, and it earns my number 10 spot. Next up at number 9 is Hell Is Us. Developed by Rogue Factor, Hell Is Us has you investigating a fictional country called Hadia, while slaying supernatural entities. There isn't much hand-holding when uncovering the mysteries in Hell Is Us, and for a game in this genre, that is honestly much appreciated. Exploring feels meaningful, and believe it or not, some of the best aspects of the game is solving some of these spooky puzzles, which may unlock plot details or rare items. The combat can be fun, the enemy design fits the theme, but the absolute best part of Hell Is Us is finding out what happened, and I was fully immersed when playing. Elias Tufexis from Deus Ex does a good job at voicing the main character, and the NPCs successfully build this creepy world. If you like playing action-adventure games, sprinkle with a little bit of RPG elements and incredible exploration, give Hell Is Us a try. At number 8 comes an action game reboot with a lot of heart. With Koei Tecmo and Omega Force leading the charge, Dynasty Warriors Origins blends both story and combat in a much deeper iteration of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Yes, the main character has amnesia, but for some magical reason it actually works in Origins. There are some variations of how things could play out story-wise, but I'll leave those out as to avoid spoilers. Focusing a bit on the action side, the amount of choices when it comes to weapons is downright impressive. For instance, you have the usual suspects like swords and spears, but there's also some fun ones like gauntlets and wheels, and picking the right one can be a challenge as they each have their own place. The battle arts looks flashy, and the ultimate attacks are devastating, and you can't forget to employ smart strategies and tactics with your troops on the battlefield, especially on the harder difficulties. There's a lot more to this 80 plus hour game than I let on. Origins is available on PS5, PC, Xbox Series, and there is a Nintendo Switch 2 version releasing next year in January. Do not miss out on this great action game. Coming in at number 7 is a game that surprised me. Developed by Questline, an indie Polish studio, Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon is an open-world RPG available on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. Think The Elder Scrolls, but with a much darker, hopeless tone. Tainted Grail feels like both an older and newer game, and I mean that in the best way possible. Based on Arthurian fiction, The Fall of Avalon starts you off in a very cliché place, but takes you on a journey uncovering what exactly has happened in this devastated region, and there are plenty of twists and turns along the way. With branching paths, multiple dialogue options that have consequences, Tainted Grail serves up some nice replayability and an overall fun playthrough that does feel like a sandbox game. I spent around 70 hours doing everything, and since then they've added more content that I haven't even touched yet. The combat is engaging, as having the option to dual wield some weird combos of weapons and spells is hilarious at times. I played on PS5 Pro, and there are some bugs, some polish issues with textures and loading, game crashes. But this didn't diminish my enjoyment too much as I cleaned up all side quests and explored every spot I could find. And I know they updated the game a lot since I finished. If playing a King Arthur-esque Elder Scrolls game sounds like a good time, go play Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon, trust me. Number 6 is a fun one. Developed by Neopol and based on the Dungeon Fighter Online universe, the first Berserker Kazan is an action RPG Souls-like with a lot of style. What starts out as a straightforward entry into the genre quickly escalates into a fight for your life with a pretty nasty skill check that may turn those not familiar with the punishing difficulty of Souls-likes away. Kazan demands that you learn how to parry its challenging bosses or face game over and over again. It's a bit similar to how Sekiro's mechanics work, as fights are faced head-on rather than just rolling around. Yeah, you could probably brute force your way through the game by doing just that, but come on, it's so satisfying executing perfect blocks and parries. Ben Starr brings the main character Kazan to life, and I had a great time slashing my way through the 35+ hour main story. There's also a good portion of meaningful side content here as well. Kazan is pretty polished, as I played it on my PS5 and faced virtually zero issues. Oozing killer art, awesome level design, great audio design, and satisfying combat, the whole package of Kazan is a win, and should not be overlooked by fans of this genre. Next up at number 5 is Dying Light: The Beast. Developed by Techland, The Beast originated as DLC for Dying Light 2, and due to some leaks and scope creep, it became its own standalone game. I played the original Dying Light and only briefly played Dying Light 2, so I wasn't sure at first how I'd feel about The Beast, but obviously I ended up loving it, or it wouldn't have made the list. In The Beast, you play a pissed off Kyle Crane who's been poked and prodded, and the result is a mutant, more or less. I played on brutal difficulty, and I was extremely immersed the moment I was set free, due to how dangerous this game is early on. This is an action-adventure horror game, and it feels like it. The visuals are quite high quality, and the sound design is incredible. At night, you are exposed, and the infected do not mess around, especially the volatiles. Watch your super powerful variant. You'll also need to hone your parkour skills to get out of the many tense moments that you're bound to encounter. Melee weapons are what you'll be using most of the time, as ammo is limited, especially early on. Firearms are your standard fanfare with pistols, rifles, revolvers, but there is a flamethrower, saw blade launcher, and a grenade launcher, which definitely comes in handy. Modifying your weapons is extremely important, but in order to do that, you need to hunt for blueprints, which are almost always placed in dicey situations. You'll also need a ton of materials that can be scavenged everywhere, included from the infected you take down. There is no fast travel in the Beast, so this forces you to learn Castor Woods. This would usually be a chore, but thankfully you do run into some vehicles pretty often, and the open world isn't that large. Plus, the parkour is a blast, so there's that. There are different skills you acquire from the experience, and some recent updates unlock New Game Plus, some new skills, an Alpha Volatile, which add to the overall tight 40-hour plus experience. If you haven't checked out Dying Light: The Beast yet and are looking for a great open world horror experience that can be genuinely scary, you can't go wrong with this title. At number 4 is another reboot, and this time we're headed to Metroidvania. Well, sort of. Published by Sega and developed by Lizard Cube, Shinobi Art of Vengeance is a 2D action platformer with some light Metroidvania mechanics. The hand-drawn feel to it is downright gorgeous, and the vibrant colors suck you in. Add in an electric soundtrack and you've got yourself one polished game. The fluid combat is fun as hell, with basic light-heavy attacks, air juggling, ranged weaponry like shurikens and kunais, special attacks that break armor, dive kicks, magic spells via ninjutsu, ninpo, and flashy executions. Movement feels great, and platforming sections can be challenging at times. And one section in particular had me stuck for about 20 to 30 minutes. It almost felt like some Super Meat Boy torture. There are a good amount of bosses and some secret ones too that were all a blast to take down. There's also upgrades you can buy, which sometimes require collecting special currency that is, of course, hidden. If you're looking for a challenge, there's some optional arenas too. The arcade and boss rush modes add serious replayability as well. And overall, Shinobi Art of Vengeance is an awesome time. It's available on pretty much all platforms, and again, it is one hell of a ride. Do not miss it if you like 2D action games. Entering our top 3, this next game was Shadow Drop earlier this year. Co-developed by Virtuous and Bethesda Game Studios, we have The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion Remastered. Oblivion was one of my favorite games from the Xbox 360 era, and I was shocked when this was dropped. There's been much discussion about Re-Oblivion. That's what I'm coining it for now, meaning a remake or a remaster. I personally lean on the remake side, including all downloadable content from the original. Re-Oblivion is a complete visual and technical overhaul of the original. I'm talking about reworked textures, models, lighting, higher resolution, and so forth, thanks to the utilization of Unreal Engine 5. Some quality of life additions have been made as well, like sprinting and a cleaner user interface to make the game feel a bit more modern. New voice lines have been added, the leveling system has been tweaked a bit, and overall, this is a better version of Oblivion. Don't worry, there's still all the classic jank that we've come to enjoy in an Elder Scrolls game, and the story, guilds, map, and locations all remain the same. One issue still remains though, and that's the scaling of enemies. I played on Master difficulty, and there never came a point where I felt extremely overpowered. I mean, hell, I still had to use my summons to take aggro for me, while I either attempted to paralyze them with arrows or backstab them. Either way, I thoroughly enjoyed this visit down memory lane with Re-Oblivion, and can't recommend it enough. If you've had any affinity for Skyrim and have never played Oblivion, Re-Oblivion is an absolute must-play. Sliding in at number 2 is the sequel to what some may call a cult classic. I must preface the fact though that I never fully completed this game yet. As those who follow me, they know I try to 100% everything I play. And now that there's a hardcore mode, I'll be diving back in with a fresh playthrough soon. Regardless, it's still worthy of my number 2 spot. Published by Deep Silver and developed by Warhorse Studios, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is everything the first game was, but bigger, better, stronger, faster. Okay, you get the point. This game is a masterclass in how to make a deep open-world RPG with meaningful quests. This is not a fantasy game and leans more towards realism with survival mechanics like hunger, hygiene, sleep, and so forth. NPCs react to your appearance, how you behave, and any crimes that you may have committed. This story hits, and a lot of the dialogue here is voiced. Motion capture is high quality, and some of the game's mechanics border on simulation. You'll man a forge, do some hunting, brew potions, play dice, and potentially romance some lucky individuals. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is an immersive experience, and I haven't even touched on the combat yet. At times, the directional combat can feel like a dance, with slow, deliberate blows being exchanged. There's also ranged weaponry like crossbows, bows, and even some firearms. The game is cinematic at times, with detailed textures littered around its 2 regions. There's multiple hours worth of cutscenes and a ton of laughs or tears to be had. I was genuinely impressed with this game, and it comes highly recommended by me. If you are looking for a true AAA open-world sandbox game set in a historically accurate Middle Ages and haven't played Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 yet, stop watching this video and go buy it now. Before I unveil that number 1 spot, I figured it would be nice to throw out some honorable mentions that just barely missed the cut. The Altars is a really cool sci-fi survival game with a unique premise and an original twist. Where Winds Meet is a free-to-play open-world action RPG that plays like a premium game and gets exponentially better after the first few hours. Arc Raiders didn't make my top 10 because I simply didn't start playing it until Christmas Day. Maybe if I had more time with this third-person shooter extraction game, it could have overthrown something on this list. And even though it came out last year, there's been some major updates and new content added to Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl that make this game worth another look. And as mentioned before, there's plenty of other games that could have made this list, like Hollow Knight Silksong or Hades 2, but I just didn't play those yet, so that's the reason they aren't on my list. Wrapping up my top 10 games of 2025 is a game that exceeded my expectations, to say the least. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a turn-based RPG that pays homage to some classic RPG games. Infused with real-time mechanics like parry, dodge, and jumping, Expedition 33 makes turn-based combat feel new and fresh. And this is coming from someone who adores turn-based games. Set in a dark fantasy world, potentially inspired by France, Expedition 33 dishes out gorgeous visuals, unique enemy design, and an amazing soundtrack like no other. There's no map, so it's important to keep track of where you are and where you've explored, as to not get lost. Luckily, the level design isn't overly complicated to make up for this. There is an overworld, which you can find super bosses like the weapons from the original Final Fantasy VII, and some items hidden around to pick up while traversing it, which give a nice layer of exploration. Some of these hidden items you find will allow you to upgrade your party back at camp, and each character has its own skill tree. There's a materia-like system called Pictos, which can give bonus stats and passive abilities. There's tons of weapons to find, which can also be upgraded, and some pretty dang awesome outfits your characters can wear. The story being told in Expedition 33 is not for the faint of heart, and unless you're soulless, it will weigh heavily on you even after its completion. The voice acting is some of the best I've ever heard in a game, rivaling that of Baldur's Gate 3 and The Witcher 3. Man, there's a lot of threes being tossed around right now. With how stacked this year has been for games, placing Clair Obscur Expedition 33 at the top of my list is a testament to how incredible of an experience it is. Well, there you have it, my top 10 games of 2025. If you've enjoyed this first time crack at a top 10 list and want to see more, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. And feel free to mention your favorite games or any recommendations. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, be safe.